Welcome to our documentary on Gene Shepherd, a unique voice in American culture whose influence extends far beyond his most famous work. Gene Parker Shepherd, born on July 26, 1921, was a master storyteller, humorist, and social commentator who left an indelible mark on American entertainment. While many know him as the writer and narrator of the beloved film A Christmas Story, Shepherd's career was rich and varied, spanning radio, television, print, and live performances. For over 2 decades, Shepherd was the night owl's companion on WOR radio in New York City. His late-night show, running from 1956 to 1977, wasn't your typical radio program. It was a nightly excursion into the mind of a true American original. Shepherd would weave intricate tales, blending nostalgia, satire, and social commentary, all seemingly off the cuff, though always meticulously crafted. Shepherd's storytelling style was unique. He spoke directly to his listeners as if they were close friends, creating an intimate bond that kept his audience tuning in night after night. His stories, often drawn from his childhood in Hammond, Indiana, painted a vivid picture of mid-20th century Americana, filled with humor, pathos, and keen observations of human nature. But Shepherd was more than just a radio personality. He was a prolific writer, contributing short stories to Playboy magazine and other publications. His books, including In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, and Wanda Hickey's Night of Golden Memories, further solidified his reputation as a chronicler of American life. Of course, Shepherd's crowning achievement in popular culture came with A Christmas Story. Released in 1983, this film, based on Shepherd's semi-autobiographical stories, has become a holiday tradition for millions. Shepherd not only wrote the screenplay but also provided the film's memorable narration, his distinctive voice guiding viewers through the misadventures of Ralphie Parker. Throughout his career, Shepherd defied easy categorization. Was he a comedian? A social critic? A nostalgist? In truth, he was all of these and more. His work captured the complexities of American life, finding humor in the everyday while also pointing out the absurdities of social conventions. In this documentary, we'll explore the many facets of Gene Shepherd's life and career. From his Midwestern roots to his nights ruling the New York airwaves, from his written works to his foray into film, we'll examine how this multifaceted artist shaped American humor and storytelling. Join us as we delve into the world of Gene Shepherd, a world of laugh-out-loud humor, biting wit, and stories that continue to resonate with audiences today. Let's begin by looking at Shepherd's early life and the experiences that would come to define his unique voice. Gene Parker Shepherd's journey to becoming a cultural icon began in the heart of the American Midwest. Born on July 26, 1921, in Chicago, Illinois, Shepherd spent most of his formative years in Hammond, Indiana, an industrial city on the shores of Lake Michigan. Hammond, with its steel mills, railroads, and blue-collar ethos, would become the backdrop for many of Shepherd's later stories. The city, which he often referred to as Holman in his tales, provided a rich tapestry of characters and experiences that would fuel his storytelling for decades to come. Young Gene, or Shep as he was known to friends, was a keen observer of the world around him. He absorbed the sights, sounds, and personalities of his hometown, filing them away for future use. His father, an office clerk and sometimes dreamer, and his mother, a housewife with a sharp tongue, would later feature prominently in his stories, thinly veiled as the old man and the old lady. Shepherd's childhood was typical of the era, days filled with schoolyard antics, weekend matinees at the local cinema, and the ever-present backdrop of the Great Depression. These experiences would later be transformed into the nostalgic yet satirical portraits of American life that became his trademark. As a teenager, Shepherd developed an interest in amateur radio, a hobby that would eventually lead to his broadcasting career. He obtained his ham radio license, spending hours tinkering with equipment and communicating with fellow enthusiasts across the airwaves. After graduating from Hammond High School in 1939, Shepherd briefly attended Indiana University before enlisting in the U.S. Army in 1942 during World War II. He served in the Signal Corps, further honing his skills in radio communication. Shepherd often claimed he had been a radar operator in the war, though like many aspects of his personal history, the exact details remain somewhat murky. Following his discharge from the Army in 1944, Shepard wasted no time in launching his broadcasting career. He landed his first professional radio job at VSI in Cincinnati, Ohio. It was here that Shepard began to develop his unique on-air persona, blending humor, storytelling, and social commentary. Over the next decade, Shepard moved from station to station, honing his craft. He worked in Philadelphia and briefly in New York before returning to Cincinnati at WLW, where he hosted a popular late-night show. It was during this period that Shepard began to attract a devoted following, particularly among college students and night owls who were drawn to his offbeat humor and intelligent discourse. These early years in radio were crucial in shaping Shepard's style. He learned to paint pictures with words, to create a sense of intimacy with his listeners, and to seamlessly blend fact and fiction in his storytelling. He also developed his trademark skepticism towards authority and social conventions, themes that would run through much of his later work. By the mid-1950s, Shepard was ready for a bigger stage. New York City, the media capital of the world, beckoned. In 1955, he made the move to the Big Apple, setting the stage for what would become the most influential period of his career. Next, we'll explore Shepard's rise to fame on the New York airwaves and the development of his iconic radio show. Gene Shepard's arrival in New York City in 1955 marked the beginning of his most influential period as a radio personality. After a brief stint at WAR, he was hired by WNJR in Newark, New Jersey. However, it was his return to WAR in 1956 that would cement his place in radio history. Shepard's show on WAR was unlike anything else on the airwaves. Broadcasting from 11:15 p.m. to 1 a.m., he created a nightly theater of the mind that captivated listeners across the Northeast. The show had no set format, no script, and often no guests. It was just Shepard, the microphone, and his boundless imagination. A typical night might begin with Shepard's signature opening line, "Excelsior, you fathead." From there, he would launch into a monologue that could touch on anything from his childhood in Hammond to contemporary social issues, all delivered in his distinctive, rapid-fire style. Shepard's storytelling was mesmerizing. He could spin a tale about something as mundane as waiting in line at the post office and turn it into an epic saga filled with humor, pathos, and keen observations about human nature. His ability to create vivid characters and scenes using only his voice was unparalleled. One of Shepard's most famous radio bits was the libertine hoax of 1956. Frustrated by what he saw as the pomposity of the New York literary scene, Shepard urged his listeners to go to bookstores and request a non-existent book titled Libertine by a fictional author, Frederick R. Ewing. The hoax grew to such proportions that the non-existent book made it onto bestseller lists, and Shepard eventually co-wrote an actual book with that title to satisfy demand. Shepard's influence extended beyond his own show. He was a mentor to many up-and-coming radio personalities and comedians. His improvisational style and ability to connect with listeners on a personal level influenced a generation of broadcasters. Despite his popularity, Shepard had a complex relationship with his audience. He often referred to his devoted listeners as night people and the kids, but he could also be dismissive of fans who he felt didn't truly understand his work. This tension between Shepard and his audience became a recurring theme in his broadcasts. Shepard's radio career wasn't limited to his nightly show. He also did commercial voiceover work and hosted a Sunday night jazz program on WAR. In the 1960s and 1970s, he branched out into television, hosting shows on WAR TV and New Jersey Public Television. As the media landscape changed in the 1970s, Shepard's style of long-form, free-form radio became increasingly rare. His last WAR broadcast was on April 1, 1977. While this marked the end of his regular radio career, Shepard continued to make occasional broadcasts and public appearances in the years that followed. Shepard's radio work, while ephemeral by nature, left a lasting impact on American popular culture. His ability to create a shared experience among his listeners, to make them laugh, think, and see the world in new ways, set a standard for broadcasters that remains influential to this day. Next, we'll explore Shepard's career as a writer, and how his unique voice translated from the airwaves to the printed page. While Gene Shepard is often remembered primarily for his radio work, his contributions to literature are equally significant. His writing career, which ran parallel to his broadcasting, allowed him to reach new audiences and further refine his unique voice and perspective. Shepard's transition into print media began in the 1960s when he started contributing short stories to Playboy magazine. These pieces, often based on the same childhood memories and observations he shared on his radio show, quickly gained popularity among readers. Shepard's wry humor and keen eye for the absurdities of everyday life translated well to the written word. In 1966, Shepard published his first book, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. This collection of loosely connected short stories, many of which had previously appeared in Playboy, became the foundation for what would later become his most famous work, A Christmas Story. The book was a critical success, praised for its humorous and often poignant portrayal of American life in the 1930s and 1940s. Following the success of his first book, Shepard continued to publish prolifically. His other notable works include Wanda Hickey's Night of Golden Memories and Other Disasters, 1971, The Ferrari in the Bedroom, 1972, The Phantom of the Open Hearth, 1978, A Fistful of Fig Newtons, 1981. These books further established Shepard's reputation as a masterful storyteller and humorist. His writing style, much like his radio monologues, blended nostalgia with satire, creating a unique portrait of mid-20th century Americana. Shepard's written works often explored themes of childhood innocence, the complexities of family relationships, and the often absurd nature of social conventions. He had a particular talent for capturing the voice and perspective of his younger self, allowing readers to see the world through the eyes of a precocious and sometimes bewildered child. One of Shepard's most notable literary achievements was his ability to create memorable, larger-than-life characters that still felt authentic and relatable. From the gruff, cursing old man to the bundled-up, waddling Randy, these characters became iconic representations of American family life. Despite the often nostalgic tone of his stories, Shepard's writing was far from sentimental. He approached his subjects with a satirical edge, gently mocking the foibles and pretensions of his characters while still treating them with underlying affection. Shepard's writing also ventured beyond autobiographical fiction. He wrote essays on a wide range of topics, from popular culture to politics, showcasing his sharp wit and insightful social commentary. These pieces appeared in publications such as The Village Voice, Car and Driver, and Mad Magazine. In addition to his books and magazine work, Shepard also wrote for television and film. He penned teleplays for PBS and wrote the screenplays for several movies, including The Phantom of the Open Hearth and, of course, A Christmas Story. Shepard's writing career allowed him to reach audiences beyond the range of his radio signal, cementing his place in American popular culture. His books continue to be read and appreciated today, offering new generations a window into a bygone era filtered through Shepard's unique comedic lens. Next, we'll delve into what is perhaps Shepard's most enduring legacy, the creation and impact of the film A Christmas Story. While Gene Shepard's career spanned multiple decades and mediums, he is perhaps best known today for his role in creating A Christmas Story, a film that has become a beloved holiday classic. Released in 1983, A Christmas Story was based on semi-autobiographical stories from Shepard's books, particularly In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash and Wanda Hickey's Night of Golden Memories. The film, set in the 1940s, follows the adventures of 9-year-old Ralphie Parker as he schemes to get his ideal Christmas gift, an official Red Ryder Carbine Action 200 shot-range model air rifle. Shepard not only co-wrote the screenplay with director Bob Clark and Lee Brown, but he also provided the film's memorable narration. His distinctive voice, familiar to his radio listeners, guides the audience through the story, offering wry commentary and insights into Ralphie's thoughts and motivations. The making of A Christmas Story was not without its challenges. Despite Shepard's radio fame and literary success, studios were initially hesitant to greenlight a period comedy about a boy wanting a BB gun for Christmas. The film was eventually made on a modest budget and had a limited initial release. Upon its premiere, A Christmas Story received generally positive reviews but was only a moderate box office success. However, the film found its true audience through television broadcasts and home video releases. In the years following its release, it gradually grew into a cultural phenomenon. The film's popularity exploded in the 1990s when Turner Broadcasting began airing 24-hour marathons of A Christmas Story on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. This tradition, which continues to this day, has helped cement the film's status as a holiday staple. A Christmas Story resonates with audiences for several reasons. Its nostalgic yet slightly satirical look at 1940s Americana appeals to older viewers who lived through the era, while its focus on childhood desires and family dynamics makes it relatable to viewers of all ages. The film's humor, which ranges from broad slapstick to subtle wordplay, offers something for everyone. Many of the film's scenes and quotes have become iconic parts of popular culture. From the leg lamp to the tongue stuck to the frozen flagpole, from "You'll shoot your eye out" to "Fragile, it must be Italian," the film is filled with memorable moments that viewers quote and recreate year after year. Shepard's influence is felt throughout the film. His unique blend of nostalgia and satire, his eye for the absurd details of everyday life, and his ability to capture the voice of his childhood self are all key elements that make A Christmas Story so enduringly popular. The success of A Christmas Story has spawned a cottage industry of merchandise, from replica leg lamps to pink bunny pajamas. In 2012, a musical adaptation of the film opened on Broadway, further expanding its cultural reach. For Shepard, A Christmas Story represented the culmination of decades of honing his craft as a storyteller. It allowed him to share his childhood memories and unique perspective with a wider audience than ever before. While he continued to work on other projects in the years following the film's release, A Christmas Story remains his most widely recognized and beloved creation. In our next section, we'll explore Shepard's work in other media, including his television appearances and public speaking engagements. While Jean Shepard is best known for his radio shows and A Christmas Story, his talent and influence extended into various other media, including television, public speaking, and even music. Television appearances and shows. Shepard's foray into television began in the late 1950s with his own show on War TV in New York. Look, Charlie was a Saturday night program where Shepard would engage in his trademark monologues, often accompanied by jazz music. The show's free-form style was revolutionary for its time and showcased Shepard's ability to captivate audiences visually as well as orally. In the 1970s, Shepard hosted Jean Shepard's America on PBS. This series allowed him to travel across the country, offering his unique observations on American life and culture. The show combined travelogue elements with Shepard's signature storytelling and social commentary. Shepard also appeared as a guest on numerous talk shows throughout his career, including The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. His quick wit and storytelling prowess made him a popular guest, able to entertain audiences with seemingly impromptu tales and observations. In addition to his on-camera work, Shepard narrated several television productions. Notable among these was the PBS series Great American 4th of July and Other Disasters, based on his own stories. Public speaking engagements. Shepard's talents as a raconteur made him a sought-after public speaker. He frequently gave talks at colleges and universities across the country, where his blend of humor and social commentary resonated strongly with students. These speaking engagements often took on a similar format to his radio shows, with Shepard delivering extended monologues that could touch on anything from his childhood experiences to contemporary issues. His ability to connect with live audiences further cemented his reputation as a master storyteller. Music and audio recordings. While not a musician himself, Shepard had a deep appreciation for jazz and often incorporated music into his radio shows. He released several spoken word albums, including Jean Shepard and Other Foibles and Will Failure Spoil Jean Shepard? These albums allowed fans to enjoy Shepard's stories and commentary in a format they could revisit repeatedly, helping to preserve his unique voice and style for future generations. Commercials and voiceover work. Shepard's distinctive voice made him a natural for commercial work. He lent his talents to various advertising campaigns over the years, including notable work for Volkswagen and Kodak. His voiceover work extended beyond commercials. He narrated several documentaries and industrial films, bringing his trademark wit and insight to a wide range of subjects. Print media. In addition to his books, Shepard was a regular contributor to various magazines and newspapers. He wrote a column for the Village Voice and contributed articles to publications as diverse as Car and Driver, Mad Magazine, and Playboy. These print pieces allowed Shepard to reach audiences beyond his radio and television work, further expanding his influence on American popular culture. Influence on other media. Shepard's work has influenced numerous other writers, comedians, and filmmakers. His style of observational humor and nostalgic storytelling can be seen in the work of artists ranging from David Sedaris to Jerry Seinfeld. The breadth of Shepard's media work demonstrates his versatility as an entertainer and commentator. Whether on radio, television, in print, or on stage, Shepard had a unique ability to connect with audiences, making them laugh while also encouraging them to think critically about the world around them. In our next section, we'll delve into Gene Shepard's personal life and some of the controversies that surrounded his career. Gene Shepard's public persona was that of a masterful storyteller and keen observer of American life. However, his personal life was often as complex and sometimes contradictory as the tales he spun on air. Relationships and marriages. Shepard was married 3 times throughout his life. His first marriage was to Barbara Mattoon in 1947, ending in divorce in 1957. In 1960, he married actress Lois Nettleton, a union that lasted until 1967. His third and final marriage was to Lee Brown in 1977, who had been his longtime producer and collaborator. Brown remained with Shepard until her death in 1998. Shepard's relationships were often tumultuous, and he was known to be difficult to live with. His intense focus on his work and his sometimes prickly personality could strain his personal connections. Embellishments and controversies. One of the most intriguing aspects of Shepard's career was the blurring of lines between fact and fiction in his storytelling. While he presented many of his tales as autobiographical, questions have arisen about the veracity of some of his claims. For instance, Shepard often spoke about his service in the Army during World War II, claiming he had been a radar operator. However, military records suggest he never served overseas and was primarily stationed stateside in the Signal Corps. Shepard also had a tendency to exaggerate or invent aspects of his background. He sometimes claimed to have a degree in engineering, though there's no evidence he completed college. These embellishments were part of Shepard's persona, but they also led to criticism from those who felt he was being deliberately deceptive. Complex personality. Those who knew Shepard personally often described him as a complex and sometimes difficult individual. He could be charming and gregarious one moment, and abrasive and dismissive the next. He was known for his sharp wit, but this could sometimes turn caustic, especially when dealing with fans or colleagues he felt didn't understand his work. Shepard had a complicated relationship with his audience. While he cultivated a loyal following, he could also be contemptuous of fans who he felt were too eager or sycophantic. This attitude sometimes manifested in his on-air behavior, where he might mock or berate callers. Controversies in later career. As Shepard's career progressed, he became increasingly frustrated with what he saw as a decline in American culture. His commentary became more bitter and cynical, which alienated some of his longtime fans. There were also controversies surrounding his work on A Christmas Story. While the film was based on Shepard's stories, there were disputes about the extent of his involvement in the screenplay. Some collaborators felt Shepard exaggerated his role in the film's creation. Legacy disputes. After Shepard's death in 1999, there were disputes about his legacy. Some former colleagues and friends felt that Shepard had been unfairly dismissive of their contributions to his work. Others argued about the true nature of his background and experiences, given his tendency to blend fact and fiction. Despite these controversies, Shepard's impact on American popular culture remains significant. His complex personality and the questions surrounding his life story have, in many ways, only added to the mystique surrounding this unique and influential figure. In our final section, we'll explore Gene Shepard's lasting legacy and his enduring influence on American humor and storytelling. Gene Shepard's impact on American culture extends far beyond his most well-known work. His unique blend of nostalgia, satire, and social commentary has left an indelible mark on humor, storytelling, and popular culture. Influence on American humor. Shepard's style of observational humor, blending personal anecdotes with broader social critique, paved the way for many comedians who followed. His ability to find humor in the mundane aspects of everyday life influenced a generation of stand-up comics and humorists. Comedians like Jerry Seinfeld and Billy Crystal have cited Shepard as an influence. Seinfeld, in particular, has spoken about how Shepard's focus on the small, annoying experiences of daily life inspired his own comedic approach. Impact on storytelling. Shepard's narrative style, which seamlessly blended fact and fiction, has had a lasting impact on American storytelling. His approach to memoir, where personal experiences are exaggerated or reimagined for comedic effect, can be seen in the work of contemporary humorists and writers. Authors like David Sedaris, who blend personal essays with embellished storytelling, owe a debt to Shepard's pioneering style. The popularity of humorous personal essays and memoirs in modern literature can be traced, in part, to Shepard's influence. Radio legacy. While the format of radio has changed dramatically since Shepard's heyday, his influence can still be felt in modern broadcasting. The idea of a lone voice entertaining and engaging an audience through storytelling and commentary lives on in podcasting and late-night radio shows. Garrison Keillor's A Prairie Home Companion, with its blend of storytelling, humor, and Americana, showed clear influences from Shepard's work. A Christmas Story and popular culture. Perhaps Shepard's most visible legacy is the continued popularity of A Christmas Story. The film has become a holiday staple, with annual marathons on television and numerous pop culture references. The film's impact extends beyond mere entertainment. It has shaped the way many Americans remember and imagine the 1940s, even for those born long after the era. The movie's portrayal of childhood desires, family dynamics, and small-town America has become iconic. Preservation of mid-20th century Americana. Through his stories and commentary, Shepard preserved a particular view of mid-20th century American life. His detailed descriptions of everything from radio shows and comic books to family dynamics and school life have provided future generations with a window into this era. Influence on social commentary. Shepard's ability to offer pointed social critique wrapped in humor has influenced many modern commentators and satirists. His skepticism towards authority and social conventions can be seen in the work of numerous contemporary humorists and social critics. Academic interest. In recent years, there has been growing academic interest in Shepard's work. Scholars have begun to analyze his contributions to American humor and his role in shaping cultural memory of the mid-20th century. Continuing relevance. Many of the themes Shepard explored, the complexities of family relationships, the challenges of growing up, the absurdities of social conventions, remain relevant today. His work continues to resonate with new generations of readers and listeners. Fan community. Shepard has inspired a devoted fan community that continues to celebrate his work. Websites, podcasts, and books dedicated to analyzing and preserving Shepard's legacy ensure that his unique voice continues to be heard. In conclusion, Gene Shepard's influence on American culture is both broad and deep. From shaping the way we tell stories about our past to influencing the development of observational humor, Shepard's legacy continues to be felt in numerous aspects of our cultural landscape. His ability to find humor and meaning in the everyday experiences of life ensures that his work remains relevant and appreciated, even as the world he described fades further into history. As we conclude our documentary, let's reflect on the enduring importance of Gene Shepard as both an entertainer and a chronicler of American life. As we've explored throughout this documentary, Gene Shepard was far more than just the creator of a beloved Christmas movie or a late-night radio host. He was a multifaceted artist whose work has left an indelible mark on American culture. Shepard's career spanned nearly half a century, during which he mastered multiple media formats. From his groundbreaking work in radio to his influential writings, from his forays into television to his creation of a holiday classic, Shepard demonstrated a remarkable ability to connect with audiences across various platforms. What made Shepard unique was his distinctive voice, both literal and figurative. His rapid-fire delivery, his ability to paint vivid pictures with words, and his knack for finding humor in the everyday aspects of life set him apart from his contemporaries. He didn't just tell stories, He created entire worlds that listeners and readers could inhabit. Shepard's work was characterized by a complex blend of nostalgia and satire. While he often looked back at his childhood with fondness, he was never content with mere sentimentality. His sharp wit and keen eye for social absurdities allowed him to critique the very world he was describing, offering insights that went beyond simple reminiscence. One of Shepard's most significant contributions was his preservation of mid-20th century American life. Through his stories, he captured a moment in time, the sights, sounds, and feelings of growing up in the Midwest during the 1930s and 1940s. This vivid portrayal has allowed subsequent generations to connect with an era they never experienced firsthand. Shepard's influence extends far beyond his own body of work. He helped shape the development of observational humor, paving the way for generations of comedians and writers. His approach to storytelling, blending fact and fiction, has influenced countless memoirists and essayists. Despite the controversies surrounding some aspects of his life and career, Shepard's impact on popular culture is undeniable. A Christmas Story alone ensures that his voice continues to be heard by millions each year. But his legacy is much broader, encompassing his radio work, his writings, and his overall approach to commenting on American life. As we look back on Gene Shepard's career, we're reminded of the power of storytelling. Shepard showed us that our everyday experiences, no matter how mundane they might seem, can be sources of humor, insight, and shared understanding. He demonstrated that nostalgia, when balanced with the critical eye, can be a powerful tool for examining both our past and our present. In many ways, Shepard was ahead of his time. His free-form radio style prefigured the podcasting revolution. His blend of personal storytelling and social commentary anticipated the rise of blogging and social media. His ability to create a shared experience among his audience foreshadowed the communal viewing experiences of the streaming era. Gene Shepard was a unique voice in American culture, a masterful storyteller, a keen observer of human nature, and a blazingly original talent. His work continues to entertain, inspire, and provoke thought, ensuring that his influence will be felt for generations to come. As we conclude this documentary, we invite you to explore more of Shepard's work, to listen to his radio broadcasts, to read his stories, and yes, to watch A Christmas Story with fresh eyes. In doing so, you'll be connecting with the singular talent who helped shape the way we talk about our lives, our memories, and our shared experiences as Americans. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of Gene Shepard, humorist, storyteller, and an enduring voice in American culture.